With visualization, or with any practice of Tantra, if you do it and are with it, then you will feel it working. Whereas if you are not with it, you will find the whole thing a bit of mumbo-jumbo and a little ritualistic. You have to experience your Vajra nature. If you do not experience that, then there is nothing to generate from. That is why, to get in touch with one's fundamental nature, which is the Buddha, through the practice of meditation, is the first initiation. Firstly, you dissolve everything into emptiness. You have to have an experience of that. Then from out of that state you create. It is like discovering the switch to a light. Switching on and then generating. What you generate is your heart, the truth. You generate the light and it shines, it illuminates. When you generate the pure perception of the deity, all your perception is purified, is lightened up, and you see with that, you hear with that, and you feel with that.
Thank you. First, what I explained to you yesterday, was it clear? See, I'm very interested in the, how do you say, having a proper grounding before actually entering into practice, really. So, therefore, I'll read a little bit from a prepared text that I've done. Just to kind of go over a few points. The Vajrayana or Tantric teachings of Buddha contains tremendous magic and power. Its magic lies in the ability to transform confusion into the awakened mind, to reveal the ordinary, everyday world as a sacred realm. Its power is the unerring insight into the true nature phenomena and seeing through the ego and its deceptions. According to the Tantric tradition, the Vajrayana is regarded as a complete teaching of the Buddha, as the complete teaching of the Buddha. It is considered to be the path of a complete discipline, complete surrender, and complete liberation. It is important to realize, however, how firmly grounded the Vajrayana is in the basic teaching. It is important to realize, however, how firmly grounded the Vajrayana is in the basic teachings of Sutrayana, the teaching of egolessness and compassion. The teaching of egolessness in Hinayana, compassion is Mahayana. Frequently, the exceptional strength and the efficacy of Vajrayana are misunderstood as a promise of instant enlightenment. But one cannot become enlightened overnight. In fact, it is highly deceptive and even dangerous to think in such a way. Without exception, the Buddhist teachings point to the erroneous belief in a self and ego as the cause of suffering and the obstacle to liberation. All the great teachers of the past practiced the preliminary meditative disciplines diligently before becoming students of Vajrayana. Without this basic training and the basic practice of meditation, there is no ground to work with Vajrayana at all. The realization of egolessness, which is the first discovered from the practice of shamatha and vipassana meditation. The shamatha meditation, one works with breath and posture as expression of one's state of being. assuming a dignified and upright posture and identifying with the breath as it goes out, one begins to make friends with oneself in a fundamental sense. When thoughts rise, they are not treated as enemies, but they are included in the practice and labeled simply as thinking. Shamatha or Shine in Tibetan means dwelling in the state of peace. From the shamatha practice, one begins to see the simplicity of one's original state of mind and to see how confusion, speed and aggression are generated by ignoring the peacefulness of one's being. This is the first experience of egolessness, in which one realizes the transparency of fixed ideas about oneself and the illusoriness of what one thinks of as I or me. With further practice, one begins to lose the reference point of one's self-consciousness, and one experiences the environment of practice and the world without bringing everything back to the narrow view of I. One begins to be interested in that rather than purely being interested in this. The development of perception, that is, penetrating and precise without reference to myself, is called vipassana, or langtong in Tibetan, which means clear seeing. The technique of vipassana does not differ from shamatha. Rather, vipassana grows out of the continued application of shamatha practice. The clear seeing or insight of vipassana sees that phenomena have no more a solid existence than oneself, so that one begins to realize the egolessness of other. One also begins to see the suffering that is caused in the world from clinging to erroneous conceptions about self and phenomena. One perceives that philosophical, psychological, and religious ideas of eternity and external liberations are myths created by ego mind. So in vipassana practice, egoless is the recognition of the fundamental aloneness and the non-theistic realization that one cannot look for help outside of oneself. Is this clear? Put everything into what I said yesterday. So altogether, the ground of Buddhist practice is called the path of individual liberation, which is Pratimoksha in Sanskrit and Sosotarva in Tibetan. By practicing the discipline of the shamatha and vipassana, both in meditation and throughout one's life, one can actually liberate oneself from personal confusion and neuroses, and one can free oneself from causing harm to oneself and others. One becomes inspired to commit oneself fully to this path by taking refuge in the Buddha as the example of a human being who attained enlightenment by renouncing external help and working with his own mind, in the Dharma, the teaching of egolessness that can be heard and experienced, and in the Sangha, the community of practitioners who follow the path of the Buddha by practicing as he did, as Buddha did. So one realizes that in this spinning world of confused existence, one has had the rare good fortune to encounter the true path of liberation. Now the Mahayana, or the great vehicle, goes beyond the inspiration of individual liberation. On the whole, Mahayana approach is basically one of working with the benefit of others, working for the benefit of others, with whatever the world presents. Therefore, it is an endless journey. As one embarks on this journey without destination, one's preconceptions begins to fall away. This experience of non-reference point, which initially could be just a momentary flash in one's mind, is the first glimpse of shunyata. Shunya means empty. Ta makes it emptiness. According to tradition, shunyata is empty of I, empty of other, absolutely empty. This experience of emptiness is the realizing that there is no I as actor, no action, and no other to be acted upon. The shunyata is not the nihilistic idea of nothingness or voidness. It is the complete absence of grasping and fixation, which in Tibetan is called zungwa and zimba. Zungwa is grasping, zimba is fixation. So this is the complete egolessness of subject and object, It is therefore the absence of separation between self and others. The experience of shunyata provides tremendous room and tremendous vision. There is room because one sees that there is no obstacle to going out, to expanding, and there is vision because there is no separation between oneself and one's experience. One can perceive things clearly as they are without filters of any kind. This unbiased perception is called prajna, or discriminating awareness, or chirap in Tibetan. It is the sharpness of perception of shunyata and the knowledge that comes from that perception. In fact, prajna literally means superior or kind of best knowledge. The highest knowledge that one can have is the knowledge of egolessness, knowledge of egoless insight, which begins as the experience of vipassana and matures in the Mahayana into prajna. Is it clear? The discriminating awareness of prajna sees that I and others are not separate, and therefore that the enlightenment of oneself and the enlightenment of others cannot be separated. In this way, the perception of shunyata makes one more wakeful and compassionate altogether. One feels immense interest in others and immense caring for others whose suffering is not different from one's own. This is the beginning of the Mahayana practice of exchanging oneself for others, which is in Tibetan called Da Yen Jeva. Da is self, Yen is other, Jeva is exchange. The notion of exchange means giving whatever assistance is needed, extending kindness, sanity, love to other people. In exchange, one is willing to take upon oneself the pain and the confusion in the hypocrisy. One is willing to take the blame of any problem that might come up, not because one wishes to be a martyr, but because one feels that there is an infinite reservoir of goodness and sanity to share. At the Mahayana level, egolessness is expanded into the path of selfless action, which goes completely beyond ego clinging. It is this surrendering of ego which we shall discuss. Or we can say, it is the surrendering of this ego that one, with this, that we can enter into, which makes it possible for us to enter into the Vajrayana path. So that's the Hinayana Mahayana finished. Okay, now the Vajrayana. So when one lets go of grasping and fixation completely, one is able to rest in the intrinsic goodness of one's mind. And one regards whatever discursive thought that arises, that is passion, aggression, delusion, or any conflicting emotions, as merely ripples in the pond of mind. Out of that, one begins to realize that there is a greater vision beyond grasping and fixation, that this vision is very firm and definite. It is not definite in the style of ego, but it is like the sun, which shines all the time. If one flies in a plane above the clouds, one realizes that the sun is always shining, even when it is cloudy and raining below. In an analogous fashion, when one ceases to hold on to one's identity, one's ego, one begins to see that the non-existence of ego is a powerful, real, and the indestructible state of being. You understand? One begins to see that the existence of ego, the non-existence of ego, is a powerful, real, and indestructible state of being. One realizes that, like the sun, it is a continuous situation that does not wax or wane. This state of being is called Vajra nature. Vajra, or in Tibetan Dorje, which means indestructible, and having the qualities of diamond. Vajra nature is the tough, immovable quality of egolessness, which is the basis of the Vajrayana path. The term Vajrayana itself means the vehicle of indestructibility, the Vajra vehicle. The Vajrayana is also called the Tantrayana, or the Tantric vehicle. Tantra, or Gyu in Tibetan, which means continuity of thread. That the Vajra nature is the continuity of egolessness, the continuity of wakefulness, which, like the sun, is brilliant and all-pervasive.